Hi everyone, welcome to day 2 of limits. Today's learning target is I can calculate limits graphically and evaluate limits at a constant. Let's take a look at the do now. It says given f of x is equal to 2x squared minus x minus 1 over x minus 1. Identify all intercepts and asymptotes. So in order to find the x-intercept, we're going to set y equal to 0. In order to find the vertical asymptote, we're going to set the denominator equal to 0. To find the y-intercept, we're going to set x equal to 0. And to find the horizontal asymptotes, we have to look at the degrees of the numerator and denominator. So why don't you take a few moments and find these 4 questions. Pause the video. So here are the answers. To find the x-intercept, we set y is equal to 0. We cross-multiplied, and then we factored. And I got x is equal to negative 1/2 and x is equal to 1. Remember, x cannot equal 1 because if I were to factor this, 2x plus 1 times x minus 1 over x minus 1, I have a whole at x minus 1. So therefore, negative 1/2 comma 0 is my x-intercept. To find my vertical asymptote, I set the denominator equal to 0. X minus 1 is equal to 0. X is equal to 1. To find my y-intercept, we substitute 0 in for x, and I get 1. So 0 comma 1 is my y-intercept. Notice to find my horizontal asymptotes, remember I have to look at the degrees. My degree of my numerator is larger than the degree of my denominator, so therefore there is no horizontal asymptote. Next, it wants us to sketch the function of f of x. When I sketch this, I notice again that I have a hole at x is equal to 1. When I substitute 1 in for my function, I end up getting 0 over 0, which means it's undefined. So if I want to see what happens to f of x as it gets really, really close to x equals 1, that's finding the limit, I'm going to draw out a table, and I'm going to figure out from the left side what number is it approaching, from the right side what number is it approaching. And it looks like from here it's going to be approaching 3. So that would be my limit as x approaches 1 of the function 2x squared minus x minus 1 over x minus 1. If we look at the next page, it says finding a limit using a graph. Use the graph of f to find the indicated limit and function value. So let's look at number 1. Find the limit as x approaches 1 of f of x. So let's look. As I approach 1, here's 1 on the left, and on the right, it appears to be approaching the y value of 1. Now, for number 2, it says f of 1. Now, I want to figure out, if I substituted a 1 into my function, what would I get? Please remember that I have an open circle at 1, but a closed circle at negative 1. The closed circle would be my solution. Next, let's look at the limit of as x approaches negative 2 of f of x. Here's negative 2 from the left, and from the right, it seems to be approaching negative 1. If I substitute a negative 2 into my function, I would also get negative 1. It's a closed circle at negative 2. Let's look as x approaches 5. Here's 5. From the left and from the right, it seems to be approaching 3. However, if I were to substitute 5 into my function, since there's an open circle here, but a closed circle here, my answer would be 5. Sometimes the values of a function f can approach different values as x approaches a number c from opposite sides. When this happens, the limit of f as x approaches c from the left is the left-hand limit of f at c, and the limit of f as x approaches c from the right hand is the right-hand limit of f at c. Here's the notation we use. So again, we hit on this briefly yesterday. From the left hand, the limit as x approaches c with the minus sign. That's from the left-hand side. And the right-hand side has that plus-hand side. So remember, in order for a limit to exist, both the left and the right sides must be the same. And we're going to take a look at a few examples of this. Use the graph at left to answer the following questions. Number 1, what value does y approach as x approaches 1 from the left? So if I'm approaching 1 from the left, it seems to be going to 1. What value does y approach as x approaches 1 from the right? Here's 1 from the right. It seems to be approaching 2. Explain whether or not the limit of this function exists. Now, does 1 and 2, are those the same values? No, so therefore the limit does not exist. That value would have to be the same for both the left-hand side and the right-hand side in order for the limit to exist. Next, it says express this function in proper limit notation. Notice that these are two separate functions, so this would be a piecewise function. So f of x is equal to, I'm going to open up the bracket, x, where x is less than or equal to 1. Notice my slope is up 1 over 1. My slope is 1, and it goes through the y-axis at 0, 0. So that would be represented by x. The next one, where x is greater than or equal to 1, would be negative x plus 3. It would go through my y-axis at 3, but the slope is negative 1. Notice this would not be a function because if I drew a vertical line right here, it would go through 2 points. Next, we have a new graph and questions. Let's look at number 1. The limit as x approaches negative 2 from the left. Here's negative 2, but from the left is here, so that would be 2. What about approaching negative 2 from the right? That seems to be approaching 0. Limit as x approaches negative 2 from the left and from the right do not match, so therefore it does not exist. And then f of negative 2, I look for my closed circle, which would be 0. Let's try the next. So the limit as x approaches 2 from the left. Here's 2 from the left. It approaches 4. 2 from the right. It also approaches 4. So therefore the limit as x approaches 2 of f of x, because both the left side and the right side match, it would equal 4. But remember, it's an open circle here. I'm looking for a closed circle for number 8, and that would be negative 1. And for the next 3. The limit as x approaches 5 from the left. 5 from the left, looks like it approaches 0. 5 from the right approaches 0. They both match, so the limit as x approaches 5 of f of x is 0. And if I substitute a 5 in, I would also get 0. Please take a look at the next page. Determine if the limits exist based on the graph below of p of x. If the limit does not exist, state them. The answer key will be posted on Wakelet, so make sure you take a look at that. If you have any other questions, please feel free to message me on Teams. Hope this was helpful. Have a great day.